Hello, everybody. My name's Eric, Eric Cease. I'm the community manager at Ning. And before we start, I'm going to give people a little bit of time to show up. And I thought we would just chat for a minute or two before we get going. I'm here with Richard and Allison, who also works at Ning. Richard, how are you doing today?
I'm good, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Just wanted to say I've been reading the book that you have here and reading some online reviews of the book, and it's getting a pretty good reception, which I think is as it should. Um, so I know that the idea of I should write a book is probably an easy one, but the actual getting it done probably is a little harder. So how was the process of putting it all together?
You know, when you start writing the book, it's fine because you're passionate about it and you're full of energy towards it. It's perfectly fine. But it's when you get to a stage where it's about 70% done and your editor is telling you to rewrite a section for like the third time, and then you have to think about promoting the book that gets really, really difficult. The actual process of writing that first draft is fine. It's everything else after that that's more difficult.
Yeah, I'd say that sounds about right. Um, the last webinar we had really successful. Really appreciate you taking the time to do it. It's definitely the most successful webinar we've ever had at Ning, just by the number of people who signed up. Um, and if anybody missed it, they can find it online on YouTube or Vimeo or look for on the Ning blog. Um, this one, even more people signed up, so that's great. I think it actually speaks to your depth of expertise, and I'm guessing we have some people here who attended the last one, as well as people who haven't attended before. Before we get started, just quickly, can you tell me how often do you do webinars like this?
So we do a training course where we do like webinars like 3 times a week. But for ones like at this sort of size, maybe once a month perhaps. It depends on the audience, and we spend a lot of time working with very specific audiences, say communities for non-profits, for example, or communities in the accountancy sector or something like that, rather than just for a more general audience. But it's fun to do this one because I've always loved Ning since like Ning first arrived in what 96, 97, I think. No, sorry, 2007, 2006.
2006, I'm going to say.
Yeah. So I've always been a big fan of Ning, and I've managed communities that are on Ning, and I've seen what Ning are doing. It's just incredible to see how that platform has developed.
Okay, well, we've got a lot of people showing up. I want to give it just another minute or two. And there's a poll up if you guys want to take the poll. And I just want to let you guys know that in the first webinar, we gave away physical copies of the book, Richard's new book, to people who submitted questions. We have given away pretty much all of those, and we don't have we don't have physical copies to give you, but we will be sending out an email to everyone that has a link to a PDF of half the book in PDF format, which is pretty darn good itself. So, but we still do want any questions you have. We won't be able to answer them all, but Allison and I will be fielding them, and we'll try to uh, alternately give Richard a few of those as we get to when we get to the end here. I think we'll go ahead and start. I think we've got enough people here, and we might as well just jump in. I just want to say welcome to everyone, whether you're an Ning customer or someone who runs a community on another platform, or just someone who's curious about how community works or should work. We hope that you get something good out of this talk. This is the second webinar in our series. The first one, if you missed it, is on Vimeo, YouTube, Ning blog. It was quite good and had a lot of great information. And that one was about engagement, activity. This one's going to be about growth, which is a question we hear, a lot on our creators, customer community, and just from talking to people. Sometimes it's hard to grow a community. So we're going to get some tips and advice from Richard. Richard, welcome.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here again.
Yeah. So what can you tell us about growth?
Well, first, let me just close a poll, and I'm going to share the results as well, because it's always really interesting what sort of communities people are managing. Um, okay, and now I'm going to share my screen. So if you can't see my screen, then let me know. Has that worked? I'm going to
Yes,
assume that's a yes.
working fine.
Okay, terrific. So again, everyone, thanks for coming here today, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak to you. When we work with the organizations we've worked with, most organizations want one of three things. They either want more activity from the members they have in their online communities, or they want more money from the communities or a greater level of monetization from the communities they do have, or they want to grow the online community. And one of the really interesting things about growth is that it prompts an array of different questions which we don't usually think about. And these questions are should we grow the community? How do we grow the community? And one of the really interesting things that most organizations that say that they want to grow their online communities, or even most individuals that say they want to grow their online communities, actually don't have a plan for growing their community. And if they do, it's a very ad hoc approach which isn't supported by anything in social sciences of how online communities develop. So, what I want to do during this webinar today is first tackle if you should grow your online community. And the answer isn't what most people think. Most online communities perhaps shouldn't grow any more than what they are now. Second, we want to look at how to grow your community. And we're going to go into very in-depth tactics here. If you read as much advice on communities as we do, you'll find that a lot of the advice about growing an online community is kind of vague. So they'll tell you to promote your online community or to be nice to your members, but they won't tell you the step-by-step, very tactical approaches that you can take to grow your community. And third, we want to look at how you convert these newcomers into regulars. What we find with the organizations that we've been involved with and the people that we've worked with in the past is that very few of them are converting a large number of their newcomers into regular members of their community. And if you're not doing that, all you're doing is wasting your time. So we want to make sure that once people visit the platform, we're able to convert those members into regular members of our community. And that's where it's very in depth, it's very data driven, and there's a lot of theory there that supports how newcomers socialize in a new online community. Let's begin with growth. So, should you grow your online community? Pretty much anyone we ask this to will say, yes, absolutely. I want my online community to be much bigger. But the problem with that is that it comes from the individual side, or it comes from the organization side. Think of all the groups that you're a part of, or all the communities that you're involved with. Do you want those groups to be bigger? The answer, if you're normal like most people, is that no, you don't want your friendship group to be bigger. Most real world communities don't wish that they were bigger. They wish that they were better, but they don't wish that they were bigger. So most communities, especially those that are successful right now, are happy as they are. And the danger of growing your community is that growth can actually hurt your community. When you grow an online community, you can wash away the existing culture you have with a flood of new members that have joined your community, or you might not be able to handle the growth. Imagine if you were to join your community tomorrow, a community that you participate in on a regular basis, and you no longer recognize most of the people that were participating there. You probably wouldn't stay participating for that long. So growth isn't necessarily a good thing for a community. It can be, but it has to be done the right way and for the right reason. And the average issue with growth is that it becomes a game where you always want to grow your community bigger than what it is now. And instead of focusing upon engaging the members you do have, you're always targeting the members you don't have. You're always catering your community to the newcomers or to the people that are visiting the platform for the very first time. And that's not the right way to go about it. Generally, if you want to grow your community, you have to do a very good job of engaging the members that you actually have in your community and not always catering so much to the newcomers. So, there are broadly 5 reasons to grow an online community. The first is in very early stage communities. And this is if you've just launched a community, then you need that community to reach a critical mass of activity. And that usually needs a number of members actively participating in that community. Until you reach that, your community won't be sustainable. And that means that you have to focus on getting those first 50 people to the community, then the first 100 people to the community, and very steadily and slowly but surely growing that community. The second reason to grow a community is to rejuvenate an online community. This is true in a lot of fading online communities or communities that are struggling in some way. It's usually a good idea to bring new members to that community because they bring fresh enthusiasm, fresh perspectives, and fresh ideas, and they can generally help an online community that's been struggling a bit. Third is if there's a new opportunity in your space, say there's a sector that's similar to yours that is now overlapping with yours, then it makes sense to expand into that sector because it keeps your community relevant to the sector that it's in. In the first online communities I was involved with, it's always around different video games. And one of the things it took us a surprisingly long time to work out is that the shelf life of a video game generally isn't that long. And if we wanted our community to last for a long time, we couldn't focus just on one game. We had to expand to other games as well and let go of the former games that the community was based around. So community is an evolving organism, and you might have to scan the broader environment of what your community is about and look for what other opportunities are coming and attract the members that are interested in that. Fourth is to tackle potential issues in your community. So this is a very data-driven approach. One of the common reasons why communities fail is that they don't make the leap from one existing social network. And by social network, I'm not talking about an online social network. I'm talking about a social group. So say if there's a community for people that work in marketing in London, what you'll generally find is that there are, say, 4 or 5 different social networks of people that work in that field. And a few of them might know each other, but if you were to launch a new community for this group, and if you only attracted one of them, that would limit the potential success of your community. And in that case, it makes sense to go outside of that circle and try and attract new people to that community. And fifth is replenishment. So if you run a mature online community, you need to regularly replenish the members that are leaving. And on a long enough time scale, all of the members you have will leave. So if you want to run a community that lasts for decades and not just for a year or two, you have to think about how you're going to replenish the natural turnover or churn, as some people call it, that every community has. But what you'll notice about all 5 of these reasons here is that they are reasons that benefit the community. They might not always benefit the organization who always want a bigger community, or they want a community so big they can't even handle that level of growth and activity anymore. But it benefits the people that are in the community. And that's the best reason to grow a community. So if you want to grow an online community, there are 4 basic channels that you can use. And we've categorized them as direct growth, word of mouth, promotion, and search, and all the other miscellaneous tactics that you can use. So direct growth is what you generally see in early stage communities. So by direct growth, we're talking about direct invitations. That's where you're directly reaching out to people one at a time and inviting them to join an online community. If you're just launching an online community, or if you're running a community that hasn't reached critical mass yet, then this is the approach that you need to take. You have to be individually inviting those people to join a community. What we do with a new online community that we're working with, we'll begin by interviewing, say, 50 to 150 members of the target audience. And then we'll ask them questions about what they're kind of interested in, what their hopes, fears, and aspirations. So we have an idea of what type of community they want. And then at the end of that, we'll invite these people to join the community. And we found that to be a great way to get the community off the ground in a very simple steps without having to spam the internet once you've launched. Another type of direct growth is through your existing audiences. If you run social media accounts or mailing lists or anything along those lines, if you have an existing audience, it's so much easier to build a successful online community. What we generally find with the communities that succeed is that the founder already has a lot of established existing relationships in that sector. And that means that if you're going to a new sector and if you don't have any existing relationships to begin with, it's very hard to launch a new online community. And in fact, what you should do is spend that 3 months beforehand building up your contacts in that sector, reaching out to people, interviewing them, having some sort of relationship with them. So by the time you launch the community, you already have a large group of members that are keen to use it. Another type of direct growth, or perhaps this can be categorized as something else, is partnerships. So what you see when I think it was American Express partnered with TripAdvisor, I think it was, um, to build a community for business travelers. So it fit both of their brands, and there already was an existing audience there. So it's another good source of direct growth. Word of mouth is something that will come to in a minute, but what the typical tactics are here are content sharing, making sure that the content in the community can be easily shared, and encouraging the people in the community to share that content. It can be individual referrals, so one member inviting another member to join the community, or individuals connecting with each other at various events. It can be by social media platforms, tweets about the community, or links to the community from other channels. It can be what's called eco traps, and we'll come to that in just a moment. Or it can be by other involvement levels of activity. We know that people that are involved in the topic or are involved in the creation of something are far more likely to share it with someone else. And the successful, mature online communities have most of their growth by word of mouth. And the mistake a lot of organizations make is that they leave growth to chance. They don't directly try to stimulate this word of mouth. So we want to make sure that doesn't happen for your online communities. Third is promotion. So promotion is basically, as I'm sure we all know, is reaching out to audience that you don't currently have access to and inviting them to join and participate in the community. So that is via media relations or publicity. That can be by blogger outreach. It can be by advertising, having various events or competitions, and a range of other tactics. And fourth is search and miscellaneous. I don't want to spend too much time on this because it's not a good source of growth for most online communities that are out there. The challenge for you is to make sure that you're using the right type of growth for your stage in the community lifecycle. And to understand that, I have to explain the community lifecycle a little bit here. So the community lifecycle is basically a process that's been built upon in social sciences and verified in online community academic literature as a process that organizations go through. Sorry, that communities go through. So it's one stage after the other. So in the inception stage of the life cycle, this is when a community is just taken off. This is before the community has reached critical mass. It begins when the community is live and open to the public, and it ends when the community has reached critical mass, which is the point where more than 50% of the new members in the community are coming via word of mouth referrals, and when more than 50% of the activity in the community is generated by the community and not the community manager. As we all know, if we've ever launched an online community, the community manager is usually generating most of that early activity. But when more than 50% of that is generated by the community itself and it's sustained, the community moves from the inception stage to the establishment phase of the life cycle. And in the establishment phase, this begins from 50%, that critical mass point, to when more than 90% of the growth of where new members are coming from and more than 90% of the activity is generated by the community itself, and there is some sense of community there. We covered sense of community a little bit in the last lesson that we did, but what it basically is whether members feel they are a part of a strong community. And the scores we have here are survey measurements, and I'm not going to dwell on this much here, but if you want to read more about it, then you can contact me after this. And then the community moves into the maturity phase, and then it moves into the mitosis phase, where it begins to break down and split into smaller subgroups. So the important thing to know here is if you're growing an online community, you have to use the right sort of growth for your stage in the life cycle. So if you're running a community in the inception stage of the life cycle, where you haven't reached critical mass yet, The growth will almost entirely be direct, and that begins by direct invitations and then by directly inviting people to join. You should be using promotion at this stage. The biggest mistake a lot of organizations make when they try to grow a new online community is that they have a lot of promotion about the community. They do press releases, they spam the hell out of that community. And that's a huge mistake to make. It's a huge mistake to make because you're inviting a lot of new people to see a online community where there isn't much going on yet. Even if you were to see that with content and activity, there won't be an established culture there. There won't be a base of regular members there. People that join probably won't stick around for long. So it'd be a big mistake to promote a new online community. What you instead need to do is have that initial base of members, have those relationships you've developed, gradually get your first 50 to 150 people in and active in that community, and you'll generally find that advances to the establishment phase within it usually takes within 3 to 6 months, but that can vary a bit. And at this point, what you also find is that you won't have to be inviting every member to join yourself. Members will start to talk about the community elsewhere, and people will start to join off their own accord. That's why it's a good idea to ask members how they heard about the community when they join the community. So in the establishment phase, you also want to be initiating those referral or word of mouth marketing tactics that we'll come to in a minute. And then as you advance to the maturity stage, this is when you want to promote the community. In the maturity stage, if you have, say, 500 members that are active, it's not a good use of your time to be individually inviting people to join the community. Unless they're VIPs or heavy influencers, that's not a good use of your time. What you do need to be doing is promoting that community because there's a good, strong community there. This is when you want most people to see your community, when it's established, when it's going, and when things are looking really good. And then in the mitosis phase, where you begin to develop subgroups within the community, that's when you have to be individually building those groups up again. Another mistake that a lot of people using Ning specifically tend to do is that they have subgroups on in the community far too early. And that, as we learned in the last lesson, decreases the level of social density. It spreads out the activity far too far. So what you do want to be doing is when your community is in the maturity stage, then you want to be identifying those topics and building up the subgroups within the community and directly promoting them to people that are in the community. So it's very important that you're using the right type of growth channel for where you are, for where your community is in the community lifecycle. So let's go on to the principles of growth tactics here, things that you can actually do to grow your community right now. So the key principles here, as we just covered, is first to grow for a reason. You don't want to grow just for the sake of growth, because you don't want to end up with a community that's too big for you to manage. Second, you want to have slow, steady growth. If you have an explosion of growth, first you won't be able to convert a lot of those newcomers into regular members of the community. And you also find that a lot of your existing members aren't happy when they visit the community and don't know the other members there, where these new members don't have any idea of the culture or the spirit of the community. So it can be a very bad thing. What you do want is that slow, steady, and sustainable source of growth. Third, this is really important. If you want people to join the community, don't promote the community. No one is looking to join a community. They don't know what they're missing by not being in a community. What you want to do is to promote specific things that are happening within the community. So that means specific events or activities or discussions that are taking place within the community. So that might mean that you also need to initiate those events, those activities, those interesting discussions, and then tell other people to join and participate in them. People are far more likely to go through that registration process, far more likely to participate if you promote activity in the community rather than telling people to join the community itself. Fourth, if you are trying to grow a community, then getting people to visit and even register is only 25% of the equation. It's far harder to keep that existing newcomer and to convert them into a regular member of the community. So you need to allow more time for this. You need to set aside more time to spend on converting these newcomers into regular members of the community. And after that, you need to optimize that process as well. You will generally find out what works and what doesn't work. So some of you might remember, I think it's called FriendFeed from a few years ago. So Brett Taylor, the founder of that company, who later moved on to Facebook, used to say he found that if he can get a newcomer to the community to befriend 5 people when they joined, they would usually become a regular member for life. And the same principle works here. You can identify what newcomers do that will convert them into regular long-term active members, and then you can guide them towards that. You can optimize that sort of process. And finally, you want to measure everything. You want to measure where members are coming from, what source of growth, or say what blog, what magazine, what publication, what tactics give you the most source of members, and also give you the members that actually convert into regulars. So let's go on to very specific tactics now. So with direct growth, what you want to do is to target segments of the people you're trying to reach. So that means if you have a community that's say about knitting, you don't want to target every knitter anywhere ever. What you do want to do is find a particular segment that you can use at a time. So that segment will be based upon their demographics, their habits, or their psychographics. So, for example, you might target, say, people that are into knitting that are, say, under 30, which might be quite a rare breed. It might be men, it might be women that live in a particular location. It might be people that are into knitting that use a particular type of knitting or needles. I know nothing about knitting whatsoever, but I'm sure you get the idea. Or it might be people that are into knitting but believe in using recycled materials. And when you target a segment, you can cater your messages very closely to these people. You can identify exactly the people that you want to reach. And what you can also do is that you can cater towards them now. So if you're targeting, say, people that are new to knitting that are, say, under 30, you can start discussions in the community about what people new to knitting need to know. And it's always a good idea in a community to have these questions for people that are new to the topic itself, not just new to the community, but people that are new to the topic. Because you're going to have to cater to this audience, whether you like it or not. So it's a good idea to deliberately target this audience and try to satisfy them as best you can. Try to ask the questions that they might be too scared of asking. So you can identify these people in a variety of different ways. So you can use, for example, existing social media channels. If you were to go to Twitter right now and search for the phrase "just started knitting" or "knitted for the first time today," you'll probably find a good source of people that have just gotten going. Or say if you run a community that helps people that are getting married, for example, you would want to look for the term on Twitter that says "just got engaged," because you're going to find a lot of people that have just got engaged and can be potential members of your new community. And you can target these particular segments using the information that you have. And when you find them, you can invite them to join the community to participate in these discussions that you've created just for them, or say to participate in these events. So if you start an event for people that are new to knitting where they can ask dumb questions, share their advice, and have some of your regular members that are participating there, you're going to get a lot of people that are active in the community at that time. But it's very important that you target segments of people at a time and don't have a bland message to everyone. So target those segments, cater activities in the community towards them. And what you'll generally find is that as you go through a segment, say if you targeted people that are into knitting that live in London, for example, you'll find that people that do that know each other. They have existing networks, and you can generally penetrate through that network quite well. And then you can move on to the next segment and the next segment. And there's no shortage of times you can do this. And it's a sustainable way to grow a community. Also, when you're targeting people, target specific people for a specific reason. So when you're inviting someone to join the community, reference something that they have done in the past or that they are or something that represents them and say that you would like their opinion because of that. We've generally found that's a very good way to get someone to actually join the community. And as we always said, promote activities within the community. And most importantly, stagger the recruitment efforts over a period of time. So if you want to get new people to join the community, then don't invite, say, the 500 people that were on your mailing list to join at once. Break them down first into segments of 10 and then 20. Try different approaches and different emails so you can gradually optimize what works. And it's not only optimization, it also means that you can convert these new people into regulars. You can welcome them to the community, you can have events just for them, you can mention them, you can do a lot to get them engaged and active in that community. So next, let's talk about word of mouth. A lot of people think that you don't have much influence over word of mouth about your community, that you can't get people to easily talk about the community, and that's not true. We've found that you can get a lot of people talking about the community, inviting their friends to join the community, but you have to engage in tactics that are designed to encourage positive word of mouth about your community. So, if you're going to do that, you need to understand how word of mouth works. So, from a community perspective, people will talk about their community for one of four different reasons, really. First, it's to increase their status within the community. If I invite my friends to join the community because it increases my status within the community, I'm likely to do that. Second, it might increase their status or make them look good amongst their friends outside of the community. Third, it might help people that are in the community. And fourth, it might help friends that are outside of the community. These are generally the four reasons why people invite people to join a community. And there are different tactics that you can use to encourage each of these types of word of mouth. And what we generally find is that these status related word of mouth appeals work better than the more utopian help my friends inside or out the community appeals. So here are a few tactics that you can use. So if it's about increasing status within the community, then any sort of ranking system that has, the top 5 members of the week or the month, or any sort of voting system, tends to get people joining and inviting their friends to join and participate in the community. And this is because I can invite my friends to vote for me, or to vote for my idea, or to support my side of the debate that I'm having with someone else. So if you have these regular polls or debates where members can put forward their idea and compete against other people in some way, both of those sides are likely to invite other people that believe in their point of view to join the community. Another thing that works well is by delegating various areas of responsibility in the community to your members. So if you let some of your most active members have control over say their own groups, or having responsibility for a particular discussion category, you're going to find that these people also invite other people they know to join and participate in the community, because the more people that are participating in that group or that category, or commenting on that source of content, or their weekly column or whatever, the more it increases their status in the community. If you want to help members increase their status outside of the community, or in short, impress their friends, then you have to rely on certain status related appeals. So, what you see a lot of social platforms doing is that they'll give members a limited number of invitations to join the community or to use that platform or that tool. So, for example, when Gmail launched, they gave the top 10 people that they could reach, the top 10 influencers, the ability to invite 10 others. But you don't need to do that. Say if you close your community and you let every member of your community invite one person. And if everyone did that, that'd be 100% growth for your community. So there are a variety of different tactics you can use like that. Or if that doesn't work, you can have an event that takes place in your community and only let your members invite one other friend to join them for the event. There's a range of different tactics that you can use here that work really well. Another thing that works well, if there's a participation that's about something particularly interesting going on in the community, again, events, activities, live interviews, anything that's going to make someone inviting their friends look good, then that can be a really good idea as well. And also, if you are giving awards to people in the community, if you're mentioning them in articles, if you're interviewing your members, they're very likely to share that with people outside of the community. So now we move on to the more altruistic reasons why people invite others to join the community. These are generally the weakest types of appeals, but they can work well. So people will invite others to join the community if it helps their friends inside of the community. So if you establish a clear goal for the community, that means that you need other people to join the community to achieve that goal, then people are likely to go out and recruit other people to join the community on your behalf because it helps the other people in the community. If you have a particular problem to solve or a situation that needs a particular level of expertise, if there's specific help that you need and you make that be known, and you can create these situations quite easily, then you're going to find that people in the community will spread promotion about the community because it helps the people that are inside of the community. Another idea that I missed out when it comes to increasing the status outside of the community is collaboration on joint content. I'm sorry to go back to this, but I forgot about this. It's one of the best tactics I've ever seen. One of the biggest successes we've ever had is when we invite the people in the community to collaborate on an ebook of some sort where they share their best piece of advice. So they get one page in the ebook, and this ebook can be as big as you need it to be. I mean, it doesn't cost any extra money. You get a member to share one piece of advice. They get their own page in the ebook, and then you publish that ebook. Not only does this then help other people that haven't joined the community yet, it also helps people that are inside of the topic, and it kind of works like a school play where every kid brings their parents to watch the school play. But in this topic, everyone that's featured in that ebook, and this can be 100 members, it could be 500 members, is going to share it on their Facebook, on their Twitter, on other channels that they have, because they're involved in it and it contains their best piece of advice. And if your community isn't orientated around advice, then you can do it around the funniest stories they have or the best memories of being in the topic. You can create a very good ebook really quickly and get your members sharing that in a very easy way. And if you're really smart, there might be opportunities to have advertising in this ebook as well. So there's a variety of other opportunities you can do here. But that's one of the best tactics that I've ever seen at stimulating a lot of very positive word of mouth. And next is help friends outside of the community. So this works best when you're tackling or when you're catering towards people that are new to the topic, or you're trying to convert people to be interested in that topic. So having a newcomer guide to the topic, which your members have collaborated on in writing, that does a great job as well. If you tackle a particular issue that people have, or especially issues that are related to equipment or getting started, these tend to work really well. And also, if you have any fundraising goal, and it's usually a good idea for a community to have some sort of fundraising goal or activity. Again, this can work really well in getting more people to join and participate in the community. But what you can see here is that there are a wide variety of tactics that you can use to deliberately stimulate word of mouth referrals to your community. And it's a good idea that you try a few different ones of these and find out what works best. It's different for every community, and communities of practice are usually very different from a community of interest, which is different from a community of action. So make sure that you're trying a variety of different tactics, and you'll find that once you start doing this, you can get a lot of word of mouth. And make sure that everything in your community can be shared, and you're encouraging members to share the discussions that are taking place. If you have a Facebook page for the community, which I recommend, you can also promote the community through that page. Next, let's talk about promotion. Promotion is one of the most fun topics to talk about because most communities do this really badly. It's nowhere near as difficult as what most people believe to get good publicity for an online community. Part of it involves building relationships with journalists. If you've ever worked in PR, then you know what I'm talking about. Part of it just means placing your community as a good source of news about that topic, as a good source of the latest trend and information about that topic, and generally simply trying to get promotion for the community. Most organizations simply don't try to do this. So what I recommend you do, and I'm not going to go to read through each of these points, is first build a list of the relevant journalists in your sector, whether that's trade press, whether that's bloggers, and you can interview them for the community so they can know about you. And that's a good way of building in that initial relationship with them. Or you can have a journalist um, of the year award that's voted by your community members. And then as you build those relationships, make sure that you're an easy source of news for them. So send them the latest information that's happening for your community. Send them a roundup of irregular stories, stories that are interesting to the broader public, and send them stories about anything that are unexpected as well. One of the things that we do recommend you do is do a regular survey or poll in your community, and then publish the results as well. What you also might like to consider doing here is issuing a statement on behalf of the community. So we covered this in the last lesson that we did. So what we looked at is when there's a relevant issue to your community, you can write a statement, a joint statement on behalf of the community about that issue, and then you can publish that. You can send it to relevant trade press and relevant magazines or newspapers or radio shows. And it's nowhere near as difficult as what you might imagine to have a member of your community speaking on the radio or the television. And it's not only good promotion for your community, it's also a very good idea because it increases the status of members that are in the community. And the more or the bigger that status of the community is, the more people will actively participate in that community. And there are a variety of other tactics that work well here. So if you do any competitions or challenges, it's a good idea to promote them as well because you can get more people actively participating. If you do any big events or if you're interviewing a VIP, another thing, it's not that difficult to interview the biggest VIPs in your sector because you can get them, you can give them an audience that's usually quite big, several hundred or several thousand. And this works especially well if they have a book or something that they want to promote. So you can get them active in the community quite easily. And finally, we would say don't bother with search that much. I had an argument with a well-known community professional a while ago when he was saying that search was the best source of growth for his online community. And I asked him why, and he said, "Well, most of the new members come by search." So I asked him, "What else are you doing to grow your community?" And he wasn't doing anything. He wasn't trying to directly grow the community. He wasn't trying any word of mouth tactics. He wasn't trying any promotional tactics. That doesn't make search the best source of growth for an online community. It makes search the only source of growth for an online community. The problem with search is that it typically attracts people that are looking for information by its very nature. And when they get that information, they usually leave and don't participate. So it's very low quality traffic, and it can also be a big distraction. So I would treat search as an added bonus, and I wouldn't spend so much time focusing upon that. The best source of members you can get are people that you are deliberately targeting, or people that are going there via organic channels where members naturally refer the community to other people that they know. So let's move on to converting newcomers into regulars. It's harder to convert newcomers into regulars than it is to attract newcomers to a community. If you were to look at your members right now, if you were to try and understand how many of the people that visit your platform join and how many of them actually participate, the answer will probably be perhaps 1%, maybe 2%. There is huge scope for improvement here. There's huge scope to increase the number of members that are actively participating in your community by changing your tactics here. I would bet for most of you, you're far better off focusing here than you are in attracting new people to the platform itself, because this is going to make the biggest difference to you right now. So to do this right, you have to track your newcomer to regular conversion ratio. And that means you have to identify where members are dropping out. So picture it like a sales uh, funnel, for example, where you have the visitors that are at the top, then you have the registered members, then you have the participants, and then you have the volunteers. And treat each stage as a stage that someone goes through. So the volunteers we're not going to dwell so much upon here, but I want to look at that process of how a visitor becomes a regular member of the community. Now I'm going to warn you in advance, this is a process that really does combine data, with theory from social sciences. So what we typically do here is we ask people what their conversion ratio is. So if you can use Google Analytics, then you want to look at the number of unique new IP addresses that are visiting your platform, and then look at how many people register for that platform within 30 days. And what you might find is that it's something like this. So you have the unique new visitors, you have the percentage of them that you have the unique visitors and the percentage of them that are new, and that will tell you roughly, it's not exact, but roughly what the number of unique new visitors are. This tells you if the how successful your promotional or your efforts to get more people to visit the platform are being. And then you want to see how many of them convert into regular members of the community. I apologize that this table is a bit blurry here. So this gives you a percentage. So I hope this doesn't get too data heavy for anyone. If you hated like statistics or math in school, this is probably going to suck a bit. So what you see in this community here is that although they were getting a lot of new people to visit the platform, they weren't getting that many more of them to register for the community platform itself. So what you can do here is that you can tweak and you can optimize this process. So look at that journey that someone goes through when they first visit that platform, or even before they visit that platform, to when they register and become a registered member of that community. So first, someone hears about the platform, and then they visit, and then they find something that they like to participate in, and then they click to register for that community. They enter their registration information, they get a confirmation email, and they click the confirmation link. At least I think that's how it works with Ning, with perhaps one or two changes. But I think that's generally how it works. So what you can do immediately is to target people that are more interested in that topic. The biggest influence upon whether a newcomer becomes a regular is their depth of interest in that topic. If you're targeting the wrong source of members, then you're not going to have a very high number of them converting into regulars, no matter what you do. But let's assume that you've done that. So one of the most important things you can do when someone visits that platform for the first time is give them an activity that they can participate in. So for nearly every online community, it should be an open community. So don't close it behind a registration wall unless for some reason it's an exclusive community. So make sure that you're displaying the latest content and activity above the fold on that first page that they reach, not behind a registration wall. Don't bury it with big graphics or anything like that. Make sure that it's above the fold, above the point at which someone has to scroll down to see more on that page. And make sure that you have the most interesting discussions at any given week as sticky threads on that page. So someone that's visiting for the first time can immediately see something that they want to participate in that community. And you want them in that mentality that they want to participate right now. So you also want to be clear where they can click to register for that community. One of the things that we recommend using your sidebars for is to have a clear place where it's identified where they can register to join that community and participate in a discussion. And then limit the amount of information that you require. There are very few communities that need more than a username, a password, and an email address. I wouldn't ask for any more information from that. If you ask for more information than that, then the number of people that register will decline dramatically with each extra piece of information you ask for here. So reduce this information entirely because it doesn't have any real impact upon your community. Their gender, their age, their pictures, or whatever. It doesn't have any impact upon the community as a whole. So I don't know if you can control the confirmation messages that they get, but if you can, in that confirmation email itself, highlight a relevant discussion that they can participate in right now. So they don't just click the link to the confirmation, there's also a discussion that they can participate in straight away. So then someone not only clicks the link to register, there's also a discussion that they're looking out for that they want to participate in. And if you do this right, you should find that far more people not only visit the platform, but actually register to participate and participate in a discussion as well. So we used some of these examples last time around. So you see on the Rock and Roll Tribe, if you visit that platform, straight away you can see that above the fold, they have the top discussions that people can participate in straight away. They have on the left a place for people that are visiting the platform for the first time. And if you're visiting this platform for the first time, you can browse around, you can find something you're interested in. But because it's open, you have the opportunity to do this. They don't hide it anywhere else. Research Exchange also does this as well. They have relevant, interesting discussions, if you're interested in this, straight away at the top of the page. So when someone visits, they find something that they want to participate in straight away. And there are a variety of communities that do this and that do this very well, but they make sure that they have the latest discussions very high up in the community itself. Next, we want to look at the conversion ratio between when someone registers to that community to when they make the first contribution to the community, because there are a variety of things that you can do here. The first thing you want to do, though, is measure how successful this is, and this is a little bit hard to explain, so I'm going to do my best. It's unlikely that any platform can tell you how many people that register actually make a contribution to the community. But what you can use instead is a systematic sample to find out. So you can do a systematic sample of 100 people that have joined the community. List them by the date that they've joined and use every nth, so every fifth, every 10th, and see how many of them have made a contribution, and more specifically, where they drop out. Do they visit but not participate? Do they not do anything whatsoever? Do they update their profiles? You can find out exactly where they drop out. And this will tell you how much time you should spend working on this section. So if you want to increase this number, there are certain things you can do. The first is you can do a personal welcome to this member. So when someone joins your community, you can reach out to them, you can highlight some relevant discussion that you think they might be interested in, and you can try and get them active and participating as soon as possible. And this as soon as possible matters a lot. If you spend too much time here, or if members don't participate straight away, then it's very unlikely that they will participate at all. And there's a lot of data that backs this up. You want to get to these members as soon as possible, ideally within 48 hours. So personal welcomes can work well. The problem with personal welcomes is that it's not very sustainable. So what's ideal is if you have automated messages of some sort, so if people don't participate, then they get a message that highlights some relevant discussions they can participate in straight away. Another thing that you can do in some community platforms, I'm not sure if you can do it with Ning, but you can change the post registration page. So when someone registers for the community platform, the very next page they see is either a page that's catered towards newcomers in the community, or it's a page that, more importantly, takes them to an interesting discussion they can participate in straight away. And you can see that that's a very common theme. The next idea I saw work really well in a community for the TV show X-Files. They had a buddy system where if members joined on a specific day, there'll be someone that will be responsible for introducing themselves to members that joined on that specific day and getting them engaged and active in the community. They had volunteers that were very passionate about getting new members engaged and participating, and it worked really well for them. I haven't seen that many communities do it because it's very hard to implement in practice. But even if you just have one member that's responsible for people that join on a Monday, that's still better than nothing. So if you have any volunteers in your community or staff, it's a good idea to have some sort of buddy system there so people can get these newcomers actively engaged in the community. Something else that tends to work really well is mentioning the new members by name. So when you have newcomers that have joined the community, how about every Saturday just publish a list of some of the new members that have joined the community and some details about them. So Lisa joined from Idaho, who's really interested in fishing, and she loves this topic about blah 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 blah. And by talking about the new members, you not only have other members that tend to say hi and welcome to the community, You also have these newcomers that are actively engaged and participating because they immediately feel a part of the community, a part of the neighborhood because they've had that introduction. Another thing you might want to do is notify them by personal emails or whatever about a major upcoming event in the community. And again, it's a good idea to have a major upcoming event in the community because that helps convert people into something they can sign up for and immediately participate in the community. You generally don't want people to get into that lurker mindset. You want them to get into that active participant mindset. And if you do that very early on, your success rate, the number of active members that will be actively participating, will skyrocket. Otherwise, you'll just tend to get lurkers that join the platform but don't participate over the long term. Another thing you might want to consider is teaching the newcomers about the community. To have an email or a document that you can send out that highlights some elements about the culture, about the community, some of the top 10 discussions that have taken place in the community, who the key members are in the community, and the goals of the community. They get these people into the mindset where they are more of a part of that community. This is generally called socializing people into a community. It's not the easiest thing to do, but it's a mindset that has to change. You don't want people visiting your platform only when they need help on a specific question. You want them visiting your platform because there is something, because it's their peer group. They want to see what's new in their platform. They want to see what's new in this group that they belong to. But always make sure that these people have something interesting they can do. Get them actively participating in that community. Work really, really hard to get them actively participating here. What you don't want is a confirmation email that looks like this. And I was very careful not to pick on a Ning community here. So here, this confirmation email is too long. It doesn't highlight anything specific, any relevant discussion that they can participate in. It doesn't mention a community manager by name. You can't respond to it. You want to make sure that there is a very specific discussion that you want their opinion on right now. So next, we want to look at the conversion ratio between participants to long-term regular members of the community. I know we're starting to run out of time here, so I'm going to go very lightly over how you calculate this. You use what's called, and you're going to love this, a stratified and systematic sampling technique. So it's the same process that we went through before, where you list your members by the date that they joined or alphabetically, and then you systematically sample them. And so that means every 10th person or every fifth name on the list or whatever interval you want to use. And then you want to see the members that are still active and those that are dropped out. This is where the stratified element comes in. And you want to look at where specifically they drop out. Is it after a certain number of contributions or is it after a certain amount of time? I'm not going to dwell on this too much. If you want more information about how to do this, then contact me after the webinar. But if you do this right, what you'll generally find from your sample is you can see where members are dropping out of this process. So this takes some time to do, right? But if you do it right, it'll tell you exactly where to focus your efforts. So you see that the biggest drop off is after the first 1 to 5 contributions, and it's within the first couple of months. So if you can get a member to stay active after 3 months, they're probably going to be active members for life. So what you might want to do here, for example, is have a ritual that happens after 3 months where members get access to a new area of the community, or they get something new that's added to their profiles, or there's something that happens that initiates them into the community, or there's an event that happens every 3 months. Anything you can do to get those members staying active after 3 months. So notification systems are important here. Having the right notification system and tweaking the content of that matters a lot. One of the other things that's also really important is the speed of response to a member's first contribution. The speed of that response, the characteristics of that response matters so much. So if you make your first contribution to a community, and if you didn't get a response within say 24 hours, then you're probably not going to make another contribution to the community. And there's lots of data and lots of studies that have shown this to be true. So it's very important that when a newcomer makes their first contribution to the community, that you respond as soon as possible. Ideally, implement a 24-hour rule for yourself, where if you can tell that it's someone's first contribution, then respond as soon as possible. You also want to help a newcomer participate in the correct way. So when a newcomer joins a community, they have a social fear of participating. It might not be a conscious social fear, but it's there. They don't know what discussions have been asked before. They don't know how not to look like an idiot, to put it as simply as possible. So if you can guide them in those in that welcome guide for your community or that cultural education about the community, how to participate, what sorts of topics they might want to talk about, how to be accepted as a member of the community, and that can really help someone become a part of that community. And also the characteristics of your first response matters a lot. So if you respond with just a short message that says thank you for your contribution, that doesn't help at all. You might as well just not respond. But if you respond and say, hey, that's a great idea, what do you think about blah 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 blah, you continue that discussion. You get them coming back and participating again. So it's very easy to get someone to participate once, but it's surprisingly hard to get someone to participate twice. So you need to find a way to doing that. And your characteristics of that response, or getting other members to respond to that response, is going to matter a lot. It's going to matter a lot. Also, the rituals that you have in your community. I don't think you need any traditional initiation rituals, but anything you can implement in your community can help a lot. So, congratulations, that's in the content or in the form of some sort to members that have stayed active or made their 10th contribution or being active for 6 months or so can really help. Personal introductions to other members. So, if you know two members of your community are from a particular location, you might want to introduce them to each other. Content about the newcomers. If you have, say, a newcomer of the month or newcomer of the year, that as well can really help someone feel a part of that community. Another thing that tends to help, if you give newcomers a role within the community, so ask them to share their best piece of advice, ask them to take responsibility for a particular topic. If it comes up in the community, they're responsible for responding to it. If you make them have that personal investment very early on in the community, they're far more likely to become a long-term member of that community. What you really want to do here is to change their motivation for participating in the community. You want to change them from trying to satisfy their information needs to trying to satisfy their social needs. And you can only do that if you get them actively socializing, interacting with each other in that community. Sorry, I'm starting to lose my voice again. So that wraps up the lesson for today. There's one thing, if you haven't done it yet, that I recommend you do right now because we're not going to have this up for that long, is that you can download half my book, which will tell you how to increase the growth in your community, how to increase the activity in far more depth than we can cover here. So you can download half of that book at www.feedly.com/ning.html. And we're going to have this offer up until it leaks out across the internet, and then we'll probably take it down. So please make sure that you do that as soon as possible. And if you've liked this webinar and if you want to learn more, or if you just hate reading half a book on a screen, you can buy my book, Buzzing Communities, on Amazon.com. Okay, I think that wraps things up here. Hopefully, Eric is still awake and has some questions from you guys. If there are any questions you want to ask, then please use the question box on the GoToWebinar control panel. Thanks a lot for listening.
Thank you so much. I am still awake, definitely, for sure. Absolutely. Playing along, typing along, and answering some really great questions and some kind of funny ones as well. I've got a couple questions. Allison has a couple questions. We'll go back and forth that we grabbed out of there. This was kind of an interesting one. It sort of speaks to growth, but it's not entirely there, but I really like it, and it seems timely. He talks about his Facebook page, because you had talked about using a Facebook page and how that's a good thing. And he says that the organic reach really flattened lately per post, down from 1,200 to 1,500 to less than 500. and he I think I've heard this a lot lately that Facebook has changed the way they have you can now pay to get your message further.
Yeah.
um, is it still a great way to grow? Is it good for growth for Facebook, or does it reach a point where it doesn't matter at a certain point, or does it continue to be really great for growth?
Sure. So there are a couple of things here. First, Facebook has changed their algorithm, so you're going to be reaching less and less people, I think. You might want to be encouraging people to subscribe to your page so they receive every update rather than just like the page. What I would also say is that Facebook is a way to grow, and it's also a way to remind your existing members that you're there. So if you can talk about the latest discussions and ask members what they think with a link back to your community, that's a good way to get people back and engaging and active in your community. I would also add that every community will naturally plateau at some point. I don't think that's what's happened here. I think that Facebook have just changed their algorithm a bit. But every community will naturally plateau overall. There are only so many people that are interested in your topic, and only so many people that they can share it with. So that's something else to consider as well. But Facebook is just one way of many to promote and grow a community. And like Twitter, it's another one. If you have members sharing relevant pictures, then you can use that as another one. So there are a variety of different channels that you can set up, but it's worth thinking how many of them can you actively manage and how many of them can you really do it well, and trying to think, is Facebook the best thing we can do? So Facebook is good because it takes almost no time at all to do it. But I would be looking at the other channels, especially. How do you reach across other networks, other people that you might not be reaching? I'd be looking at targeting new segments or subgroups that are within your community, and getting them to join and participate in the community. I'm sorry, I'm starting to lose my voice again. So Facebook is a way to grow, but I don't think it's the best way to grow. I think it's just a very simple approach that you can do quite quickly.
Thanks, Richard. This question comes from Chris. Chris wonders if there is an estimate for the number of moderator hours needed to maintain and grow a community of about 1,000 members.
Okay, so I'm sure there is, but I would ask a company, say like E Moderation, what they have. Um, I would say there's a difference between 1,000 members, 1,000 active members, and say 1,000 members that participate once a month, or 1,000 members that participate 100 times per month. What there is probably an estimate about the number of posts that members make rather than number of members themselves. And I would say, well, you can work this out kind of yourself. So, how long does it take to moderate a discussion, and also why do you need to moderate the discussion, and everything like that. But I would probably guess around, if you have 1,000 active members, people that are participating, or say 1,000 posts a month, that's probably one full time moderator, I think. And you can multiply it by that, but that's a very, very, very rough figure. And you might want to go to a company like E Moderation, who can give a more exact number than me. It's a good question, though.
Okay, I'm back. I have a question here. It says my network is location based. We're all from the same neighborhood, and most of us already know members of the physical community. How do I convert that to online conversation? So how do you grow a really sort of one that already exists offline? How do you
Yeah.
turn that into online?
So it's actually a lot easier to convert an offline community into an online community than it is to convert an online community into an offline community. And you have a lot of great advantages there. So members already know each other. I mean, this is what Facebook did. They connected you to people you already know. So what I would do, I would look at how often do you meet up, what do you talk about, and then I would continue those discussions online, those exact same discussions. So there's a natural overlap there. I would also look at specific events and activities that you can host online, or a way of sharing relevant information online as well. I would also look up Hugh at networkneighborhoods.com. I would look to see what communities like East Dulwich forums are doing and Sheffield Forum, and let's see what nature of discussions that they're um, talking about, what comes up again and again. I would have a regular list of current events that are coming up. So make the community a place that they go to get information as well. But also ask people their opinion, what do they want at this event, and feed those opinions back to the people that are organizing the event. So it can do a great job at augmenting what's already happening offline. But you can't just do the exact same thing. It has to offer something that's actually useful to members as well.
Okay. Got a question from Peggy here. Peggy is curious to know what should be included in a getting started page. What kinds of content in particular will motivate new members to take an active role in the community? And perhaps where that page should be placed. We got quite a few questions about converting newly registered members into engaged and regularly contributing members. So speaking to bringing lurkers into the community and engaging them.
Okay, can you break that question down into the three separate parts? So first it was what should be in the getting started. Yeah?
Yes, that would be great.
Okay. So what I typically like to have is first at the very top, talk about a discussion that you want their opinion on straight away. And you should be updating this on a regular basis, so every week or every couple of weeks, so it stays current and it drives activity towards discussions that are lively in your community. Then below that, I'd probably highlight some of the history and the goals of the community, and then maybe a couple of tips for making their first contribution into the community: what to say, what not to say, what to talk about, what not to talk about, and try not to focus so much on what they can't do, but focus upon guiding their first contributions in the right positive way, and making, or to put it more simply, reducing that social fear as much as possible. As for where to position it, I like what the Rock and Roll Tribe have done. They seem to have covered that really well. Hold on, let me find that. So they've done it okay here. They cater to the newcomers to the community without overwhelming the existing members. What the Rock and Roll Tribe had, I think, was two years ago before we spoke to them, is that they had this image on the side here, massive image across the center of the page that moved all the activity down, and that was a mistake. I like it quite simple here on the left hand side. You can see it's very simple, and it's hard to confuse that. What was the third part of the question?
The third part of that question would be, let's see, maybe just speaking a bit more how to convert lurkers into contributing members, if that's even possible, or if you should just focus your time on engaging new members.
Sure. So what the research says so far, and I think it was done by IBM quite recently, when they looked at I think it was a few hundred online communities and the lurkers and how many of them become active participants, is that generally lurkers don't become regular members of the community. And that's for one of two reasons. First is that they're not the type of people that participate. So it's a character trait that they have. They're not the type of people that participate about that one particular topic. They're not as interested in that. And that's fine. You can't engage them. It's fine. You have lots of lurkers. I mean, there's not a lot you can do about that. Second is they weren't engaged initially, so it became a habit that they would lurk in the community. The sad thing is, or what this report said, is it's very difficult to convert lurkers into regular members, and there's no community that has done it well. There's not a single community I can think of that has managed to move a large percentage of their lurkers into regular active members of the community. So the best use of your time is focusing upon those newcomers, the people that you do have some influence over. And so that's where I'd focus your efforts. Lurkers, you might be able to get a few more active in the community, but most of the time, you will be wasting your time. It's very. I mean, I can't think of a single community that's got, say, more than 5 to 10% of their locals active, and even that is a very high number.
Okay, we've got maybe one or two more to share. This one, we have a lot of folks asking questions about activity engagement, and I definitely would recommend you go and check out the first webinar if you haven't seen that one, which was all about increasing activity, because there's a lot of good stuff in there as well. This question is kind of related to growth, and they're asking about a small survey upon joining. And Ning, you have profile questions you can ask people. It's a way to not exactly build a full directory of all the things people like, and so you can speak to them or mark to them. But a lot of places will have you fill out some sort of form when you start. Do you think it's a good idea to get people's areas of interest that way, or does it scare people off? Do you start with very little of that, and then as you grow, do you increase that because there's more people that are willing to fill it out? So what's your opinion on that sort of lightweight joining versus comprehensive data?
So what the ideal thing is that when they join, they have to enter as little data as possible. The more data they have to enter, the far fewer people will be joining that community. So that's the first thing. But what people do, member pro profiles aren't as important as what most people think in communities. What is important is in getting people actively participating. And it's only once they start actively participating that they really care about the image of themselves in the community. And that's what people do with their member profiles. They are creating that ideal image of themselves that they want to project onto other people. But until they know who those other people in the community are, then they're not going to be that interested in impressing them. So I like having very interesting questions on the profile page. And by the way, don't ask really boring questions here. If you are going to ask questions, then ask really interesting questions. So how did you become interested in the topic? What's your best or your most exciting memory? What's the one piece of advice you would share with someone else? What's the worst film you've ever seen? I love having one random question there, by the way. But don't make them fill them out to join the community. Let them do it once they're in the community. Give them the option to do it, but don't force them to do it. Get them active in the community first, and then they'll get into that mindset where they want to impress other people in the community, and then they will adapt, create, and change their profiles. Then they will get to that stage where they want to shape that image of themselves in front of other people that are in the community. Did that help?
I think that's an excellent point. So it's almost like an online dating profile. I think people start out by putting the basics, and they come back and they really flesh it out over time.
Sort of,
Some of
yeah.
the best ones I get are questions that are fun, or what kind of sandwich would you be if you were a sandwich, whatever it is. I love filling those out, but I can't always fill them out on the spur of the moment.
One
So
tip. One tip I think I shared in the last webinar we did. Someone asked how to get people to fill out their profile pictures or upload a profile picture of themselves. And what I said here is to make that default picture something that's funny and embarrassing. So if it's a community about music, have the default picture be Britney Spears or whatever legal image you're allowed to use. That would be embarrassing. So then people have a motivation to change it, and they'll usually change it to a picture of themselves. You can't use it for, say, a very hardcore community of practice. That'd be quite serious. But for a lot of online communities, you can. Hello?
All right, I think that's hilarious. I'm going to try that one out. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Okay, great. So I was just saying I think that's hilarious. So I'm going to have to try that one out. Britney Spears.
Good luck.
So this, thank you. This question comes from Deborah. Deborah has a Ning network she's using it to promote books and events, but she doesn't want people to think that it's just about her. So she's wondering how to balance a personal presence and approach to the network, how often or how much it's okay to promote her own stuff versus keeping a lower key approach, and how to manage other members when they are advertising themselves.
Okay, so this is a really complicated question, and without knowing more about the network itself, I would say build a community that's around the topic that she writes about. So there's very little mention of her whatsoever, and only promote her work, say once or twice or three times a year, when there's something new, interesting, and relevant to promote, and also promote the work of other people that are in that sector as well. It has to be a community that's about that sector and not just about her. I know some people that have their own communities. I think Steve Pavlina does a terrific job of that, and a few others do a great job of that. But the best communities tend to be about that topic and not a particular book. For the same interest that a lot of communities around video games have a really short shelf life because there isn't that much you can talk about as a single book. But if you make it about that topic, then people can always come back, they can participate. There's always going to be new information. You can talk about new books that are out. You can have regular book reviews where members can submit books for other members to review and talk about. You can have events where you interview members about their upcoming books. So it's always useful and interesting information and not too promotional. Um, but without knowing more about that network, and she's welcome to contact me after this, and I'm happy to help. But without knowing more, it's hard to give too much advice.
Okay, well, we're reaching the end of our time. I think we've been here for an hour and 20. I definitely like to keep it less than an hour and a
Wow.
half. So I appreciate everyone for sticking around and asking all these great questions. Thank you to everyone who joined us, Ning customers or visitors or anyone else who happens to be here listening or re-watching. And I wanted to thank Alison for helping me out here answering all these questions.
Thank you. Great to be here with you all. Thank you. Great to be here with you all.
And I just want to say one more thank you, Richard, for taking time out of your busy schedule and doing these with us. They really have become a bright spot in our community best practices, and I think they're going to get a lot of play over time. So I really thank you for your time.
Thank
and good
you
luck
for having
on
me.
your
It's
book
been
throughout
terrific
the
to be
holiday
here.
season.
Oh, can I add one more thing?
Sure.
So what we do is if you buy the book today and you send me the Amazon receipt, richard@feedb.com, then I'll send you a free template that we use to manage online communities for our clients. And thank you everyone for listening again. Thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure to have the opportunity to speak to you. Thanks a lot for you as well, Eric and Alison.
Okay, thanks a lot. Have a great week, everybody.